All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR Black Box Online Radio. First, I would like to say just a big thank you to everyone who has followed any of these uploads and anyone who has ever left a comment on them. I did two uploads on the O.J. Simpson case, and one in particular on the Jason Simpson murder theory that was put forth by William Deere that the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were not committed by O.J., but by, in fact, his oldest son, Jason Simpson. And during my upload on Jason Simpson, I said that I was going to do a series of them kind of covering the case, but what happened was I recorded one and somehow it either got lost or didn't upload properly and I had to delete it. Then I never really got back to the subject because I started covering some other material here on this channel. And overall, I was very sort of kind of impressed with the reception that I got from everybody who promoted the Jason Simpson murder theory video, or upload rather, because as you know, this is the smallest channel on YouTube. This is a very, very low-key operation. I would be surprised if anything I got 100 views. It's mostly just about, expanding the discussion just a little, but yeah, I got some very nice responses from people regarding that. Now, let's get on to the issue at hand. I'm going to be talking very specifically about the knife that was used in the Jason Simpson alleged murder theory. William Deere went through some sort of contradiction in his original theory. What really pulled me into it, and one of the reasons why I talked about it to so many people, was he created this narrative of a crime of passion where Nicole Brown Simpson was supposed to be at Jason's restaurant so that he could, so that they could try his food because he was a chef. So they had this reservation and he set out placings for 11 people, but Nicole and her party did not show up. So Jason Simpson forged his time card. He left work early. He took his chef's knives with him, which very standard procedure for chefs to do, and he drove to Nicole's house to confront her. But the thing is, Ron Goldman was also there. An altercation kicked off. Jason grabs the knife, and then the rest became some part of history. One of the biggest things, though, with that is William Deere has really altered that in his theory. Remember, he published the book twice. The first edition was O.J. is guilty but not of murder, and then he posted a second version, the more updated version of the book. O.J. is innocent, and I can prove it. And across this time, he really made some new developments, and he really claimed that he discovered some new evidence. And the knife involved in the killings really changed. He went from talking about a chef's knife to talking about a knife that is double-sided, kind of like a dagger almost, a knife being sharp on one side, a dagger being sharp on two sides. This knife is sharp on both sides, but it's smaller than the traditional kind of image of a dagger that comes to mind. It is 9 inches long, and it has sort of a circular shape at the end of the handle, but when the handle meets the hilt, it is a little rectangular. And this is something that really has kind of altered the course of perceptions. It's like you have an angry chef going to confront someone about why they didn't come to his restaurant, and then, an explosive altercation kicks off in a crime of passion. The way that Deere then presented it was something that sounded a lot more premeditated. And keep in mind, I also did an upload on the O.J. Simpson Judith Reagan interview, where O.J. says that in his own hypothetical, that he always carried a knife under the seat of his car for self-defense or for protection because it was too difficult to transport guns across state lines or something to that effect. I'm getting a little hazy on the details, but that alone sounded like a more plausible thing than it's like Jason's carrying his chef's knife, but then he also has, this other blade that has no real relation to anything culinary that I can imagine. And I think that is one of the biggest things that has sort of fractured the narrative of William Deere's theory. And I know that a lot of people have come out debunking this, but I found that the internet is really very passionate about the Jason Simpson murder theory, and they're also very passionate about overlooked information. And that was the heart and soul of William Dear's case. He was really just saying that there is an overlooked suspect in the O.J. Simpson theory, and I'm still on that page. I mean, what I think the general consensus is about everybody who is involved with investigating this case is that there was somebody else involved with the O.J. Simpson murders. I mean, like, I shouldn't recall that, the murders of Ron and Nicole, who has never been identified, who has never been confronted, who has never been brought forth, who has never tried as an accomplice. Somebody else was involved, whether they were involved with planning this or whether they were the getaway driver. Or, like, now OJ even describes two people in his hypothetical situation during the Judith Regan interview, and in the book, OJ is, if I did it, here's how it happened, or whatever. But, that was a fictionalized story, which, it was not written by O.J. Simpson. It was ghost written. Yet, on the other hand, like, we do have to sort of kind of always be aware that, O.J. sort of, like, is trying to, what he thinks he's doing is putting on his charm and charisma, and he's trying to manipulate people, but as they sort of said, he really fools no one. One of the biggest things with that is, was there somebody else driving the car? Probably. And the reason I brought up the Judith Regan interview is also because O.J. says that there was a person named Charlie with him who was even holding the knife, I believe, right before the altercation kicked off. And, that's, again, entirely plausible. I will say, after reviewing the O.J. Simpson case, rather in-depthly about several years ago, I really noticed that O.J. has always insisted that there were two people involved in the murder, not one. Even like the simple statements that he makes that Ron and Nicole were killed by multiple attackers. He has always insisted that. There doesn't seem to be an enormous amount of physical evidence at the crime scene left behind, whereas it seems like there is definitely a physical presence that O.J. was at the crime scene, which William Dear never disputed. And one of the big things about this is, I think the Jason Simpson murder theory has really expanded into, it's like somebody was overlooked. The sort of bare bones of it are still kind of in place, even though, like I said, William Dear fractured his own narrative by going from this, story about Jason Simpson is out of control, and he went to confront Nicole, and then the altercation kicked off and he killed them with a chef's knife, to this other blade that has absolutely no relevance to the kitchen work that I can imagine. I mean, like, so I really sort of think that that has sort of pushed us away from Jason Simpson being involved in the murders, but it really has shown us that most likely someone else was involved with the killings, but they were never charged. They were never caught. And, if somebody was even just driving the getaway car for O.J. Simpson, that would mean that they are an accessory to murder. They are an accomplice, and they should have been prosecuted. Although some people are also entertaining several other theories that it was actually an involvement with the drug cartels, that those people, who went after Ron and Nicole were related to, something it was related to drugs, like and, O.J. Simpson touches upon the subject, and I don't really know if we have enough evidence to support that, and that's just one of those things that we're going to have to always kind of be guessing about. But we do have physical proof that O.J. was at the crime scene, and it's almost just like getting the real strong suspicion that there was somebody else involved, maybe even standing right there, and that could have even been Jason Simpson. I mean, the time frame doesn't... They've sort of reconstructed the time frame of it all, and that probably could be a separate upload all in itself, but it's just like, it is possible that he could have driven, met OJ, and gotten into the car, and then they went together to the crime scene. But it's a very narrow window. But, possible is possible. But this upload is really about the knife, and I would really say that the knife that has been discussed in the video has fractured William Dear's theory that Jason Simpson was the one who committed the murders. I would really say that he really broke his own narrative, and he went from the crime of passion to just something that was almost a little too forced, and that sort of weakened his case for Jason Simpson, amongst many other things. But does that mean that someone else wasn't involved as an accomplice? And could that have been Jason Simpson? Very, very possible. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in this time. Thank you once again to everybody. If you have anything to say at all about the Jason Simpson murder theory or the O.J. Simpson case, please drop a comment below, and I look forward to hearing from you next time.